Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Married to My Purpose podcast. I am your host, Dr. Serelda, and I have the distinct pleasure of having my brother on tonight, Mr. Brian Wilson. He is the creative extraordinaire, multi-hyphenate. I don't know what all of that means, but he's going to tell us over the next half hour what all that means. So, Brian, thank you so much, and we welcome you to the show. And as you all know, this show is about real stories, real experiences, and real talks on being married to your purpose. And Brian's story and experiences that he's going to share tonight are no different. So, Brian, this is how this is going to go. Okay, we want to know a little bit about you. You're going to talk to us about who you are and what you do and whatever else you want to share. And we'll go back and forth for a little while, and then I'll be quiet and we'll shut this thing down. So, does that sound good to you?
Yes, yes.
Well,
Wow,
the
that
floor is yours.
that is an amazing intro. I promise you, I did not pay Sir Dr. Serelda for that intro. But yeah, so super excited to be on this podcast, talking with you, engaging with your audience, and so yeah, Brian Wilson, yeah, multi hyphenate, right? So I have so many passions in life. I'm a man of faith, and so I also believe that I have been blessed and stewarded with a lot of capabilities and opportunities to pour into people and provide value. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the things that I continue to express myself in various ways. And growing up, and we've heard that phrase, jack of all trades,
Mhm.
master of none.
Yeah.
And I mean, to an extent, right? But I also don't want people to digest that quote and say that you have to pigeonhole yourself to one thing, to one skill
Mm,
set, and that
that's good.
there's not opportunities to be of value to people in multiple ways. So
I like
yes,
that.
I am a reformed musician, right? So I grew
What?
up. Yeah, so yeah, this is wow. So originally from New Jersey,
Hmm.
born and raised in New Jersey, to immigrant parents. Both my parents were born and raised in Guyana in South
Mm,
America,
okay.
only English speaking country in South America, um, considered a Caribbean nation. So curry and pepper pot and all those
So you like
scrumptious
spicy food.
spicy foods. Yeah, give me some Scotch bonnet pepper.
So if
Yeah.
you go to New Orleans, you'll fit right in.
I fit right in. I went to New Orleans a few years ago. Give it all to me. Yeah,
Did you? Oh my God.
I
And I'm
did. I
from
did.
Louisiana, but spicy food, I'm like,
Yes.
ooh. I like the flavor of spice, but I don't like it so spicy. Maybe I don't like hot. There's a difference between spicy and hot.
There's definitely a balance, right? Because then at some point you won't be able to actually taste and enjoy your food properly. So
That's right.
you're absolutely right. But yeah, grew up playing, grew up playing the piano. My dad
Mm,
actually was in a reggae band when he was in college, and then he continues to play, even as we were growing up while he was working, and even now, he still, plays with the church that my parents belong to. So
mhm.
music was my first love. Like I was convinced
Ah,
I was going to be a music producer, winning Grammys, on stages, things of that nature. I actually had that dream,
mm,
well into adulthood. So,
yeah.
I was a member of the DC chapter of the Recording Academy. The Recording
Mhm.
Academy obviously puts on the Grammys. And that was, around 2011, 2012. So, I
Wow.
was I was mid 20s where I was still, quote unquote chasing this dream. I had a independent artist that I was managing where we
Wow.
would take trips up and down from Maryland to Virginia to do studio sessions.
Really?
Yeah, I would take, night visits to Philadelphia. So like I was ingrained in the music scene. Um, but here is where we have to be open to life's pivots and be aware of our skills that can transfer into other
Mhm.
realms. So in the midst of me working on my music, part of that branding was coming up with t-shirts, right?
Uh,
Um, who hasn't tried to do a t-shirt business, right? So and when I did that, I was like, well, I've got these t-shirt designs. I have friends and coworkers that are modeling this. I need to take pictures. So that actually was my foray into photography.
what?
Exactly. And then the photography ended up paying more and opening up other opportunities where music fell by the wayside. So I was doing
Wow.
photography. Photography has brought me in same rooms as Hillary Clinton, Jose Andres, Andrew Zimmern. So yes. So from a creative aspect, and I bring that up because once again, you know, I needed to know that moment when I should pivot, from music and realize that, hey, maybe that dream has been realized to that extent, right? Because
Mhm.
we tend to arbitrarily give ourselves dates of when things should happen.
Mm.
And when we also come up with goals and dreams, we also assume that the dream should manifest in a certain way.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So, what's your thoughts on that? Because I
Yeah,
think dreams have to evolve. Yeah.
I have lots of them, which is going to be interesting to you because when I graduated high school, and I'm from Louisiana, and I got a full ROTC scholarship to go to any HBCU in the world.
Okay.
And I was already pipelined for Grambling State University. I was going to their band camps, this, that, and the other. Well, I got a full music scholarship to Alcorn State University.
Okay. All right,
Um,
musician.
I audition. My best instrument is my voice. I sing. Actually just recorded a CD, an EP last summer, four
Wow.
songs. So it's out there on all the music outlets, and I've sang on national television. I've sang for Michelle Obama. I've sang in the Pentagon several times. So yeah, it's interesting that
That
you're
is
saying that
incredible.
because I was just talking to my daughter. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll learn how to play the piano. So this is new. This is a new thing. I never learned to play the piano because people were playing for me. I was a vocalist. So
Yeah.
to hear you say that, I'm like, this is right in my wheelhouse. He's not speaking French to me at all. If I had my way, I would have been a performing artist. I would have been a singer, a professional singer. Um, and that's one point, but you have my mind like going in so many places, but I want to land in this space where I keep hearing the theme of one thing feeds into the other, feeds into the
Yeah.
other, feeds into the other. Like, you have all of these abilities and skills, but you also parlay all of that together, mix it together, and say everything in its own timing. Those are my
Mm.
words of how kind of what you said earlier. So that's very powerful to me because a lot of people will say, well, I've got to hit this mark at this point. I've got to hit
Yeah.
this mark at that point, and then it doesn't happen and we're stalled, we're paralyzed, and we can't do anything. You
Yeah.
said something else that was absolutely key for me to bring up, and you said one skill parlayed into the other.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you're hearing the echo, but I'm hearing the echo. But one skill kind of parlayed into the other, and being able to use one skill over here and take it into another area to like the photography.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, did you probably wouldn't have known that this would have fed into that. So those are my thoughts right now. Like I got notes over here. I'm over here taking notes on my little pad. Like, man, that's good. Anyway, let me shut up. It's all about you right now.
No, no, no. So I'm glad you called that out, right? Because okay, so that's the creative Brian, right? Photography, music production, music composition, and then I've also been fortunate, and blessed with, a really rewarding career as a public servant in the federal government.
Hmm.
And here's another, string that I'll pull on in terms of, okay, Brian in his quote unquote 9 to 5 job, as a project manager, organizational change manager. He works in IT offices. He deals with IT, folks and individuals. So The first agency I worked for, it was a sub agency within the Department of Defense. Um, our cafeteria downstairs, monthly or every other month, they would have features of artwork,
Mm,
and I would pass it all the time. And I was like, you know what? Let me inquire about like how like who manages this, right?
yeah.
It seemed like it was artwork just from kind of like maybe random people. I'm not sure if it was other folks that were actually employed there. So
Hmm.
either way, I reached out to them and I said, hey, I have a couple like creative like photography work that I did. Would I be able to showcase it in the cafeteria? And the timing was funny because you know a few months before that, so my dad he had got me some. I actually have one of them here.
Mm.
He had purchased for me some
Oh,
like music figurines.
yeah.
So I have like 5 sets of these.
Mm,
So I set up my photography studio with the lighting and the backdrop, and I set them up as if they were their own band.
mm.
And I ended up printing those out, as photo prints, and I had that displayed in the cafeteria, for about a month,
Yeah.
right? That's how I've been able to bring in some of the creative aspect into my daily work.
Mm.
Another time at another agency that I was working for, I was a program manager for a software solution that we were rolling out. And we
Mhm.
needed leadership support, we needed sponsorship support, to get everyone excited. So I said, hey, a couple of our SESs, I said, hey, I'll bring in my camera one day and we can shoot a video where you're talking about this initiative. So that merged the photography and videography aspect with my day-to-day work. So
Wow.
I
And that's interesting for
yeah,
federal government because they get really sticky about equipment coming in and
yeah.
video. We got our own team. We don't need that. That's really good. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and and of course, we were kind of on a shoestring budget at that time, and that was my own, kind of startup, right?
Mhm.
That where I brought that idea and said, hey, this is something that I think will be good for my program, and so I bring that up because all along, and I wasn't always aware of this,
Yeah.
until after the fact.
Mhm.
All along I've been able to insert these creative moments in my career,
Yeah.
right? And which actually brings more excitement into the future, right? In terms of where else I'll be able to insert these creative moments. And that's why I mentioned multi-hyphenate, right? Because
Yeah. I'm like, what is that? He always
yeah,
says that. I
there's
want to know. He's gonna tell me tonight.
and and we're all multi-hyphenate, right? We all have multiple ways that we can bring value to individuals. And
Mhm.
so um, that's something that I've been, super excited and super blessed about.
Wow, I love that. So you said you're from Jersey. So you did you live your entire life on this side of the world or you all traveled around? So this was your thing. You were up here and
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yep. East Coast, born and raised. I have some cousins in California, so we had visited them a couple times in the '90s. But yeah, primarily on the East Coast, and so I'm used to like having major snow blizzards as a kid growing up in
So
the
you're used to this.
'90s. Yeah, yeah, I'm used to this. But I'll tell you something interesting though. My birthday is February 24th. So growing up as a kid, it 99% of the time snowed. In the
Wow.
2010s and the 2020s, my birthday is a hit and miss. So I
Mm,
remember I turned 30 in 2015. It was an all-out blizzard. And then I would say maybe 2 years ago, I was at a rooftop party in Silver Spring partying.
mm.
So just to give you an idea
Wow.
of like the difference in weather. Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. And my birthday is February 18th. So that's so crazy.
Hey, there we go. All right. I think you're Pisces. Is that or are you still
Aquarius.
Aquarius? Okay, hey, it's still good with me. Yeah. It's still
Yeah,
good in my book.
listen, you so I'm channeling creativity tonight. I'm channeling
Yes.
pivoting. I'm channeling not fearing how one of your abilities can feed into the other, and timing. Like everything you're talking about tonight kind of centers around those things. Has there ever been a time where you were stuck? Because what I'm
Mm,
hearing now is you said, you had these figurines and you took a photo and you went, you were able to display this in the cafeteria. That was a very brave and bold move and courageous move, especially in the federal government, because
yeah,
most times people don't want you to mix the
yeah,
two. If it's not your 9 to 5 stuff, we don't want to hear anything about it. Don't bring it up. It may be, and sometimes depending on the federal organization that you're in, they'll
yeah,
even go as far as to say, it may be fraud, waste, or abuse, that you're not
yeah,
doing your job, you're doing this other stuff. So
yeah.
how have you managed in these spaces where you were not able to display those abilities outside of the workplace? That's a thought. You don't have to
Yeah.
answer that one.
Yeah.
My main question more so is, have you ever been in environments where you didn't know that you could do that? When did you become confident enough to do
Mm,
what you did in terms of that figurine story?
yeah. Well, I'm going to go back a few years before I got into the federal government, years before I got into photography. So after graduating, yes, after graduating, I started working for a pretty mid-sized advertising agency in Center City, Philadelphia, right? So I was
Mhm.
still, but we had moved to South Jersey some years before. So I'm in South Jersey, graduated Rutgers University, started working for that ad agency in Philadelphia. I'm like, great, got some good money, still living at home, so I didn't have real bills,
Yeah.
you know. And then 2009 came around. I'm going to trip you up with this one because I got laid off the weekend of my birthday, 2009. And
No
that
way.
whole 2007, 2008, 2009, that was a whole like economic downturn and recession.
Mm,
So that was like a very shocking moment for me because I had to go on unemployment. And full transparency, and there's a lesson in this, once I stretch the story out. So I went on unemployment. I was on unemployment for about a year.
mm,
Now, that's not because I wasn't able to find other opportunities.
yeah.
My gut and just my instinct wouldn't let me accept some of those positions that came my way. And it's
Mm,
it's even hard for me to tell you like now exactly what that feeling was.
yeah.
I'll give you an example, right? So I had actually accepted a position. So I'm still in New Jersey. I have some friends in the DMV area, so I accepted a position in Virginia. Another entry level position, sort of in like the advertising marketing realm.
Mhm.
I accepted that position. I came down to live with one of my friends and his mom. They had an extra room. I was
Mhm.
going to do that until I can save up and find any apartment. And Serelda, I'm going to trip you out. I quit after that first day, and I
Are
remember
you kidding me?
I remember in the parking lot that afternoon. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, it's just I don't know what it is, but this is just not for me." And one thing I'll give credit to my parents for, they were very non-judgmental, right? They were
Mhm.
confident that I was going to figure things out. Now, of
Yeah.
course, I had like some friends, and they were looking at me like, dude, you are crazy, like you are absolutely crazy right now. And so, fast forward that story a little bit. I'm applying for jobs.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I look and see like what a career in the public service can look like. And so I had applied, and I was taking trips down from New Jersey down to the DMV area, like doing job fairs. Like, so I
Mm,
was still active in my job search.
yeah.
So I had met a gentleman, June of 2009. We hit it off at a career fair. He said, "Hey, apply for this internship program." I applied, but I applied incorrectly, and so I had to wait for the next round of
Mm.
openings. November 2009 came around. I applied again. Serelda, I didn't hear anything from November 2009. The new year came, February of 2010 came. This is before I knew how long it took to get into the government. I
Yeah.
just assumed that, okay, I'm just not going to get into the government. I ended up accepting another commercial sector position,
Yeah.
and I'm not making this up. The first day at that position, it was like mid to early February. in South Jersey. The first day on that job, I checked my email and I received an acceptance notice 3 months later from that internship position that I applied for the DoD saying, hey, you've been accepted. Can you start in March? So I ended up leaving that other job after the day because I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going down to
You
the
need to write a book
DMV.
on the first day might be the last day. Like, what in the world?
That is actually a wonderful title. I might have to give you royalties on that.
Take it, man.
So
Just take it. You don't owe me nothing. You said it, not me.
so getting into the federal service was a wild time. So all that to say, we 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 have to trust and have faith that things work out for the good. Now, of course, this is me talking about the situation 16 years later. I probably wouldn't be able to have the same conversation while I was actually going through that unemployment moment, but I
Mm-hmm.
can look back at that situation in other situations and I have proof to myself that I'm going to be okay. And
Yeah.
that is an important factor in some of the other work that I do as a change manager and as a change catalyst,
Yeah.
because some of that we have, we're humans, right? So there's fear
Mm-hmm.
baked in, there's uncertainty baked in. There is, hey, I was really good at doing A. Now
Mm-hmm.
I have to do B. And so I kind of have to start from the bottom up. I may not be an expert because of this change. And
Yeah.
so that built a lot of resilience for me.
Yeah, that, one of the things that you have me thinking about is when I wrote my first book. I was in my doctoral program in 2016 because that's when I graduated. Well, that's when I retired from the military. And my department head said, what would you write about that would give you, that tears will come to your eyes? I said, my
Mm,
childhood. I wasn't raised by my
yeah.
mom. She was a drug addict. My grandmother raised me. I stayed with different families, this, that, and the other. And so in my doctorate program, I had three options: do a curriculum, which is an 8 module, do an 8 hour seminar,
Mm,
or write a manuscript. And so I said, yeah, I can write. I'll just write a manuscript. And my department head said, well, if you're writing about at-risk youth, which was what my area was, centered around my own story, she said, youth don't like to read. So if you write a book, they'll probably never read it. If you do a seminar or a training module, you can break it up and then you have 8 additional books that you can write versus one. I'm like,
Yeah.
that sounds good. I write this book, and it wasn't from my doctoral program, by the way. That was where it should have been, at least I thought. Years later, in 2018 or 19, I believe, is when I wrote and published my first book in 26 days, and it was a bestseller. So in my head, I'm
Okay.
thinking, okay, well, that was painful to write because I didn't know if I was going to write about my expertise, diversity, HR.
Yeah.
I was in the Miss America circuit for a while. I was in the band. I'm a vocalist. I sing. I've recorded. I have all of these talents and abilities, and I want to write about the experiences, but where should I start?
Yeah.
And God told me, start at the beginning. Let them know who you are first and then build from there. And so I built this book. And afterwards, I'm like, how did I just write a book in 26 days? And of course, I had a friend who had offered a class, write your book in 30 days. I'm like, I'll take this class. It's only $100. I'm not going to lose a lot. He may
Yeah.
get me to an outline, but there's no way I'm writing a book in 30 days. And I wrote the book in 26 days. I'm saying all of that because
Mm,
my bachelor's degree was computer information systems. And I went directly into the military. So I didn't really use that degree. And so I thought.
yeah.
When I wrote the book, I actually wrote, edited, and published that book by myself. I self-published the book. And
Wow.
I'm like, how did I do that? Okay, maybe I'm just this super smart girl and
Yeah, claim it.
I'm like, no, that ain't it. I kid you not, Brian. The Holy Spirit said to me, the computer degree. And in my
Yes.
head, I heard it. It was very soft voice, but it was a very intentional, matter of fact, that was your answer. I'm like, that has nothing to do. And then I thought about the nights that I was in the computer lab writing programs, and like there were 7 of us in there, and we were all struggling. Like,
Yeah.
when you're doing IT from a programming perspective, if you have a space out of place, the entire
Oh, yeah.
program
Yep.
creates a million errors. So now in
Yep.
our mind, we think literally there are a million errors. So we're literally in the computer lab saying, okay, we're on line 12, everybody hit the space bar. We're on line 13, everybody hit enter.
Wow.
And they were like, well, how many errors did everybody get? Everybody say, they're all gone. We had one space. I ended
Mm.
up editing my book with the patience that I gained from the computer information system degree in 1994 to 1999.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how that comes full circle.
Yeah.
Even now, as a business owner and entrepreneur, having a website and having so many different creative abilities where
Yeah.
you're like, it's too many, I got to pick one. You don't have to pick one. Just got to know how to parlay each one of them in this proper timing. So even
Yes.
now, I can see my computer information systems degree and the disciplines that I learned from it in play. So everything that you're saying tonight, it's just a reminder for me to just, hey, if the idea comes up, understand it may not happen right now today, but it could still happen, and it may not happen the way that we want. So thank you for reminding me of that. I just wanted to share that.
Wow. That is so good, Serelda, because so I have one remark and then I have a similar story in terms of how our experiences they rear their heads subconsciously or unintentionally.
Mm,
So the one comment I have, once again, just going back to my earlier statement, the notion that we should only focus on one thing,
hmm.
that's a man-made statement,
It is.
right? That's a man-made statement. And so and once again, if you're truly operating in a certain capacity where you believe you've been blessed with certain things, how selfish and how limiting for us to ignore the other value that we can provide. So
And by the way, the social system rarely ever wants you to have two 9 to 5 jobs. One at a time.
okay, all right, exactly. Um, so the other thing with regards, you were able to like you were able to realize how some of your early studies impacted your ability to publish an amazing best-selling book.
And I'm on book 11, by the way. So that was the first one.
Wow. Okay. See. All right. So now you're showing off. Now you're showing off.
All of them self-published, by the way. I didn't have help from, I mean, I had help, but
Yeah.
I self-published them all. But anyway, go ahead. It was
Hey,
not about me in that moment. So
Dr. Serelda, I don't know who coined this statement, but if it's true, it's not bragging. Okay? If it's true, it's not
I'll take it.
bragging. So, with me working in IT now, I was a marketing major.
Mm,
And I'm in IT now. I'm like, again, like, how did I have a great career, but how did I get here? So I think back to undergraduate, even though I was a marketing major, once again, I've been pursuing music for a while. So I would have access to the music lab. I took several music courses. I took a couple computer, management information system classes. So there were elements early in my studies where maybe I shouldn't be as surprised that I have connection to the IT field with my work. And particularly
mm,
with a couple of my music classes in undergrad, I had to learn software. We were using like Pro Tools and Sibelius,
mm.
and we had new Apple machines that we were recording on. I had to figure out that software. Even with my own music production and my own recording, figuring out how all that software worked and things of that nature. And this was years before I entered the workforce. And so
Yeah.
I look back at that situation. I look back at those situations. It's like, okay, maybe I'm not. Maybe I shouldn't be too surprised that I have a certain affinity for the IT realm of things.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, as we're wrapping up tonight, thinking about the themes that I've heard, Brian, tonight, these are timeless themes, THEMES, that we can use across any discipline. We're talking about the timing of using your talents and abilities, understanding when to pivot.
Yeah,
We're talking about one skill lens into the other, and sometimes we have to make the first move in order to get to move 3, 4, or 5.
yeah,
I always talk about this analogy of if I'm standing outside of my house and I want to go to the bathroom that's on the top floor, I can't get to that bathroom unless I open the front door. So I
Yeah.
got to go through the
Yeah.
first door to get to the second door to get to the third door.
Yep.
Sometimes we want to jump from outside of a closed door into the third door. You can't do that.
Yes.
You've got to
Yes.
get exposure from things that are happening along the way in order to appreciate where you're going. So, wow,
Mm,
thank you tonight. This has been so good. Like, as we're getting ready to close out, I want
wonderful.
you to leave us with some key points and how we can get a hold of you, how we can, use your work. I'm going to be calling you for photography because I love photos, by the way.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
so we're gonna have to do something in 2025. I don't know what, but something.
For
But yeah,
sure.
I'm gonna give you the floor for the last couple of minutes before we close out and share whatever you like. The floor is open to you.
Yeah. So a couple things, intentionally expose yourself to just
Mm,
different activities, and different people and different environments. Like I said, just a lot of where I'm at now and where I've been in the past, I wouldn't have been able to write that story before it happened, right?
mhm.
Which 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 is why we should be so excited for the future, because there's literally people that we're going to know and things that we're going to do in 1, 3, or 5 years from now that we have no idea who these people are. We haven't met them yet. There's going to be experiences that are going to end up being the best experiences that we've ever had, and we don't know what those experiences are as of yet.
That's right.
And so, for me, just excitement for the future, enthusiasm for the future, just exposing yourself to different things. Certainly, Dr. Serelda, absolutely love this conversation.
Yeah.
Love dialoguing with your audience. I'll give you two links. So by the way, my name is Brian with an I. For anyone that's listening. So my photography website is photographicbrian, one word.com, photographicbrian.com. And I also love speaking and facilitating, with audiences. And so my other website is brianadrianconsulting.com, brianadrianconsulting, one word.com. And Dr. Serelda, you are awesome. You are clearly
Oh,
walking within your purpose in
I
this
hope so.
married
Just a
in
little bit.
yes, absolutely. With this podcast, you're walking in your purpose, and very excited to continue to collaborate with you.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Wilson for this week. Listen, go out and look at it over and over again, take some notes. So as we come back next week, I want you all to remember that real stories, real experiences, and real talks about your purpose are extremely important as you move into the future. And understand being intentional about everything that you do will tie into everything that you need to. So we want to say good night, goodbye, and we'll see you all on next week. Bye bye now. Makes you want to
Hey.
dance.
Man, I couldn't talk. I'm glad you.
It's all right.
I was just it was like still recording technically.